Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there was an angelic girl called Goldilocks. Unfortunately, her mother was a ghastly tyrant who would thrash her to a pulp or beat her up if it took her fancy. She would also starve poor Goldilocks for weeks at a time, so that the poor girl would have to go looking for grubs and other such creepy crawlies to eat. One day, when Goldilocks could stand no more, she decided to run away from her evil stepmother.
I'm running away. Really, I am.
She ran for miles before stumbling upon a dear little cottage on the edge of the forest. She knocked timidly on the door. However, there was no answer, so she burst in. In the living room, she found 3 bowls of porridge.
I'm ravenous. Really, I am.
But to her horror, it tasted as though it had been there for weeks. She rushed out of the room, out into the garden, where she was violently sick on the lawn. She returned to try the second bowl of porridge.
I'm ravenous. Really, I am,
she said. But to her horror, she discovered it was even worse than the first. Again she ran out of the room and into the garden, where she brought up another gallon of the contents of her stomach. She returned to try the third bowl of porridge.
I'm ravenous. Really, I am,
she said. Fortunately, although quite cold by this time, the porridge was delicious. She finished with a colossal belch. Then, feeling a little tired,
I'm tired. Really, I am,
she decided to try and look for a bed. Meanwhile, the owners of the cottage, Mr. Bear, Mrs. Bear, and cute little Baby Bear, returned home to their cottage. To their dismay, they found that someone had been eating all the porridge, and also puking in the garden.
Who's been eating my porridge?
Roared Mr. Bear.
Who's been eating my porridge?
Roared Mrs. Bear.
It's all right for you 2 pigs,
wailed Baby Bear.
Someone's eaten the whole bloody lot of mine. Language,
roared Mr. Bear, and hurled him across the room. Baby Bear landed in the very room that Goldilocks was sleeping in.
Mum, Mum, come quick.
But before he could say another word, Goldilocks, who had woken and who was still feeling ravenous, ate him. Just then Mrs. Bear came racing into the room.
Mr. Bear, come quick,
she cried. But before she could say another word, Goldilocks, who was still ravenous, ate her as well. Then Mr. Bear came into the room as well, but Goldilocks, who was still ravenous, ate him as well. Presently, Goldilocks wandered into the garden, feeling quite stuffed and quite enormous.
I'm stuffed. Really, I am.
But just then, before she knew it, she suddenly exploded into 1,000 pieces. And of course, the moral to this story is, if you do go into a stranger's house, don't eat them. The end.